Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. I'm Jon Najarian. Pete Najarian joining me shortly as I rocket north on the Bright Line. Those of you who live in Florida know what I'm talking about. And we'll have that, some stock stories, a little bit of sports, and maybe even a macro minute or two. We'll have all that for you right after this on the Rebel's Edge.
Now again, he's in parts unknown, although they are known. They're in Florida, right? Miami?
Yep.
Something like that? Yeah.
Bright Line is a high-speed train, Pete, that goes all the way up to Orlando. But I'll be getting off in West Palm for the Wall Street conference, where tomorrow I'll get to interview Ray Lewis and Tim Draper. Tim Draper is like second-generation VC, and he bought the Bitcoins from the Silk Road when they shut that thing down. So he bought 30,000 Bitcoins, Pete. I think he paid 18 mil for them. They're worth a little over $3 billion today.
Not so bad. It seems pretty good. That ought to be great.
Yeah, there should be some interesting discussions around that.
Yeah, I would think.
Well, let's dive into Macro Minute, Pete. Just like we were saying on the show yesterday, we came all the way back. Everybody, and you and I went on Connell McShane's program on News Nation and said, hey, you said, Connell, people didn't really care. Other than the hacks that sold it into the hole on the opening, nobody seemed to really care.
And those hacks, John, the hacks were the big dogs, right? I mean, that's the hedge funds. They were selling, the customers, were buying, and it's amazing because it was one of the bigger days in a really, really long time for buying coming from that side of things. So, yeah, I think it really comes down to sentiment, John. And what do you believe? Do you really believe the surveys that we are given where there's 500 and 1,000 people being asked a question about the economy? Or do you believe the earnings that have been delivering one after the other, after the other, after the other? I think it's 78% beats from the S&P. So, I think I'd go with the beats for the earnings. I think that's the direction I would lean.
Yep. Well, again, it's proof based rather than just somebody's thought of something that might happen. All right, Pete. How about for fantastic futures if I hit Bitcoin? Because, like I say, I'll be talking to Tim Draper tomorrow up in Palm Beach for the Wall Street conference. And the Senate just passed something that's going to go to the full Senate, Pete, and the House, and that is something called the Genius Act. That's the first regulatory framework for issues for stable coins, for digital tokens pegged to fiat currencies. Fiat currency are things like the dollar, folks. And that's going to be pretty interesting, Pete. So I'm going to say Bitcoin today deserves to be my fantastic future.
You know what? I'm going to circle back to that one, too, because I had that one as one of mine. First of all, I'm going to say the volatility index is extremely tight. When you look at the range today, John, it's basically in the low 18s to the mid 18s, and that's where we sit today. So not a whole lot really to report on that one. I will tell you this, though, John. How about this? On January 20th, do you know where Bitcoin was trading? It was 107,000. All right, then it bottoms out in April, right? We get to 76,000, early April, April 7th. Where are we today? Today is May 20th, so I just said January 20th, 107. We're sitting here today at May 20th. You know where it is? Pretty damn close to 107,000. So it's a big number, and it's impressive. I think it's trading around 105,000 right this moment, but awfully close to a complete round trip back to the start of the year. So I think that's pretty interesting, and that's my fantastic future.
All right. Well, Pete, small cap spotlight and or, a small cap minute, whichever way you want to put it, RAD Intel, because this company, RAD Intel, they have the AI future of marketing, and we're lucky enough to work with them. Does that mean they paid us something to say this? Yes, it does. But then we also invested in this company. They have groundbreaking AI that's essential for brands. So if you want to put a message out there, Pete, to the masses, you want that message to resonate with the masses. You want your influencers, if you hire an influencer, to be the right influencer. And how do you do that? Well, RAD Intel can do it with AI. And they've already raised $37 million. We're proud to say we helped them with some of that. And they're raising more for 9 more days. They're doing a crowdfund for 9 more days. Basically, the end of May, it's over. So you've got 9 days and probably 12 hours before this thing is done, Pete. And if you take a look at that splash screen that Jared put up there, there is a QR code right in the middle of it. And if you scan that QR code, you can go right to the site where you can invest and crowdfund this one. They've already reserved their NASDAQ symbol, folks. The NASDAQ symbol is RADI. So RAD Intel, RADI. And you can check that out. It's, I think, a pretty exciting offering. And anybody that does something with AI that makes it better is somebody that you want to pay attention to. And RAD Intel is one of those, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Yeah. All right. What's our first stock, John? Before we get off track.
Okay. Before we get off track, Pete, let's talk about your mulch. Because, of course, Pete every year says that Christmas isn't in December for Home Depot. Christmas is this time of year when everybody's fixing up their gardens. Maybe they're making a gazebo. Maybe they're buying furniture and things like that. And Home Depot does an awful lot of that. And as you see there, that's just a small sample of the amount of mulch that Pete buys over at Home Depot every single year. Yep. So I think that's pretty interesting, Pete. And I'd also say we did have unusual activity in it. We had unusual activity in Home Depot when it was substantially cheaper, and it's higher today.
Yeah, it's had a really nice run. They've got, actually, even today, it started off pretty good. It's pulled back a little bit, John, because it was kind of a mixed bag is what we got. We got the earnings, which were something that they missed on the earnings. But when you look at the revenue, they absolutely crushed it. They put up $39.86 billion, and that was up 9.5% year over year. So very, very impressive. I think the other impressive thing is the CFO came out and he confirmed the idea. He said, look, we will not raise prices based upon the tariffs. I thought that was pretty interesting. And part of the reason that they can say that, John, is the diversified sourcing that they do at Home Depot. And this is something I've been a bit critical of Apple, for instance. The fact that 90% of the iPhones are built in China makes zero sense to me. And if they're going to move all of that over to India or wherever,
that's a big mistake too.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense either. I mean, let's try to get some diversification. Sure, you could still be in China to some degree if you really wanted to. You could be in India. You could be in a lot of different places if that's what they want to do. So I look at that. I look at the free cash flow of this company, John. It's sitting right in between the 52 weeks low and high, but it's a little bit closer to the highs. I think this is a great company, and I think, you know what it is? It's Christmas in the spring is what it is. And I think that's why a Home Depot, this is where everybody goes. They do spend some money on what they're going to do. Do they pull back a little bit? Sure. I'm sure they did. And maybe that was part of the deal. But they still put up some great revenues. And I think I'm pretty impressed with what Home Depot was able to put up.
Well, I bet you're impressed with this one too, Pete, where we also had unusual activity. Amer Sports, or actually I keep adding the I in there. It's really Amer Sports. But they design, manufacture, market, and distribute sporting goods, all kinds of stuff, all over the world, really. And this is a big multi-billion-dollar company. This isn't like just some fly-by-night, Pete. And it's not a Temu either. But these guys really did a pretty good job. We had the unusual activity a long time ago, and now it has moved up substantially. Always appreciate that when things move up substantially.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Every one of those different categories that you talked about, Jon, was up double digits. I mean, it's absolutely incredible what they were able to do in the quarter. The revenue, they absolutely crushed it. $1.47 billion, up only 24.6% year over year. I'd say that's pretty damn good. Their earnings, they crushed that. It's 27 cents. They were looking for 16 cents. They hit a brand new 52-week high as well. And by the way, in the last 1 year, this is a Finland-based company. In the last 1 year, they're up 128%. They are doing everything right. And this is another one of those where you can look at it, you could say, competitor to Nike? Absolutely. And are they doing it? And are they gaining something? Absolutely they are. This is what we talk about when we say, hey, Nike's in trouble, I think. I mean, the longer people want to say, well, it'll bounce off of this because of what's going on over here. We haven't seen that bounce, and Nike's still under pressure. And I think the competition's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is just one of those that's absolutely taking away from Nike right now.
Right. And technical apparel, folks, so whether you want to view it as mountain climbing gear or ski gear, outdoor performance stuff, you name it, these guys do it. And we did have that unusual activity. So those calls did expire, but take a look at where the stock was from when we saw it and where it went to, because those are always the things we like to track. All right. How about this one, Pete? QBTS, also known as D-Wave or quantum. It's a leader in quantum computing systems. Man, did we have some unusual in this one, and did it pay off? We had it on two separate occasions, Pete. We had it on the 15th, which is just a few days ago, of course, and we had it yesterday. The one time it hit was at 1173. Yesterday it was at 1272. Trades through 15 today, Pete. So again, the May 23rd 14 calls were what they were buying yesterday. The June 11 calls were what they were buying before. Both of those moving deep in the money. You've got to love unusual activity, Pete.
Record quarterly revenue, Jon. It was up, not that great, I guess, but it's up 500%. That seems like a pretty good number, and I think that's why we're seeing the stock do what it did. And I was lucky enough, and there is always luck involved, to have seen that unusual option activity yesterday, grabbed some, and already out. I mean, it made such
a one-day trade
move. Might have to jump into something else because it's that interesting. But their revenue growth, everything that you look at in this company, Jon, you just stare at it and go, well, that's not a negative. I can't find a single negative in your. I always try to look for those negatives. Like, is there anything in this report that leads me to think that there's a problem? I didn't see anything. 3 times normal volumes in the first 3 hours of the day. I mean, that's pretty impressive. New 52-week highs. It got all the way up over 17, Jon. So that's another thing that's pretty interesting. Everywhere you look, though, they just crushed it. And it's unbelievable. Their profits surged by 13.9 million. Seems like a pretty good number. Great margins. Everywhere I look, I see something good. This is an unbelievable report. And I don't know that it's over, but sometimes you just got to look and see, where did I pay for this? I might have to take this off. And that's kind of the debate I had with myself for all of about 5 minutes this morning.
Well, then let's switch gears a little bit, Pete, over to travel and go to trip.com because they reported first quarter revenue. That number looked pretty dang good, even though it was just in line with estimates, $1.91 billion. Now, the problem is that they came up light on the profit per share. It was 82 cents versus 86. But triple-digit inbound traffic growth, Pete, that's exactly what every firm would love to be able to report. These guys did, but they're down about 7% today because of that earnings miss.
Yeah, and I think it's probably deserved, Jon, because they gave us all these great numbers, right? I mean, the numbers that you were just talking about, and these huge percentages of growth here and this, that, and what we're seeing. But why weren't they able to capitalize on that? That's the part that I couldn't find the answer to that either. But they got 82 cents. They were looking for 86 cents. All right, well, so they missed on that one. It was basically in line from revenue at 1.91 billion. I just keep wondering the same question. Now, this stock's doing just fine. The 52-week high 77. Last I looked, it was trading about 63, so it's well off of there. But the low was 38, so it's well above that. I just look at it and just wonder, well, with all of the good things that they gave us, why weren't the numbers just better than that they were? And that was the one thing that puzzled me. So I'm a no touch on this one, but I think that they're going probably in the right direction. But they've got to show us, I guess, they've got to show us how they're going to be able to put up those earnings numbers. And until they do that, I think I'm going to sit on the sidelines of this one, John.
All right. Well, let's take a look, Pete, at one of your favorite parts of the show, and the viewers, I think. Always love it when we've got something interesting, and this is something interesting on the NIL side of things. In other words, name, image, and likeness. Is this that one, Pete, that we're going to show them?
Yep.
From California.
Should be pretty fun.
Initially committed to Miami.
Character.
This college quarterback is facing off in a $1 million court battle with Florida head coach Billy Napier that could shake up the entire college sports landscape. Let me explain. This whole situation started back in 2022 when Jaden Rashada was a top 100 quarterback recruit from California. Rashada initially committed to Miami after receiving a reported $9.5 million.
He must have been pretty close to the top
Florida kept
of that
recruiting
100.
him hard, and eventually a
to get that
four-year,
kind of money.
$13.85 million NIL deal convinced him to flip his commitment. The problem, after signing with Florida, those NIL payments never came through.
I've been saying this is going to be a problem out there, man.
Rashada realized that no one was planning on honoring the agreements that were made. A federal judge is allowing this case to proceed, saying that the defendants were working together to lure Rashada away from Miami. What makes this especially brutal is the lawsuit claims that they let Rashada on until his
all this stuff. They've got to
Rashada never played a single snap for Florida and has bounced from Arizona State to Georgia since then. He now just finished up another round in the
Georgia. You know where he is now, Pete?
Sac State.
The Hornets, baby.
To court in 2026, and will likely show the ugly side of the NIL world.
I played in that stadium many times in my life. Well,
now, I tell you what, Pete, it's got to work both ways, however. That if you sign an NIL deal, and I suspect it works this way, that if you sign a 4-year NIL deal for $13.5 million and you decide you're going to leave, I don't know what the obviously they didn't pay you all 4 years up front. I would think that they pay you 1 year at a time.
Yep.
But these contracts are basically very squishy.
Yeah, it is, John.
And it's black and white.
No, and that I think that's a huge problem. And that's one of the things that we've been talking about this whole thing is, first of all, the unfair advantage of NIL at one school versus another. I think that's sort of ridiculous that they haven't figured something out for that. And the whole payment system, right? I mean, that has to be ironed out. I know that a lot of folks will say, well, it's all there, it's all in black and white. Well, is it? Well, there's a heck of a lot of guys out there that are pretty ticked off that don't think it is. So I'm not sure that it's as clear as it should be. And maybe it needs to get a lot more clarity there, John. So that'll be interesting. Matter of fact, I'll start with that one, John. So I was looking at, college football already because I'm always looking ahead or whatever. And I wanted to look at, who are the stars of the portal this year, the transfer portal? And the top 5 leaders in the transfer portal, shocker, were all quarterbacks. So here's who they were, John. You've got Nico Iamaleava, the kid from Tennessee who's going to UCLA, right? He ended up getting himself into a bit of a bind on the numbers because the numbers sure don't add up. But nonetheless, it's interesting. He's number 5. Number 4 is Fernando Mendoza. You know where he's from? Cal Berkeley. And he left Cal to go to Indiana. Well, that's an interesting one, but he's number 4. Number 3 is Darian Mansa, who went from Tulane, to Duke. 2 pretty good academic schools, by the way, so I give the kid a lot of props. Carson Beck decided to go from Georgia to Miami for about $4 million a year. But the number 1 guy is John Matier from Washington State, who went to Oklahoma. This kid lit it up last year at Washington State. I don't even know what that conference is considered anymore, John, because is it still the Pac-2 or what is it? I mean, it's Oregon State and Washington State, right? And they're talking about all these deals. Maybe they work with the Mountain West or whatever. I don't really know, but it's interesting to say the very least about that. But it shows you that in the portal, or just like we were talking about a couple of days ago, John, we were on our sports when we said, hey, if you're Pittsburgh, why don't you have a quarterback? Why do you have 4 guys that nobody's really ever heard of? Nobody's really had the opportunity to watch them play. Why aren't you deciding either drafting somebody or signing Aaron Rodgers, or maybe even go down to Atlanta and start knocking on the door of Kirk Cousins and say, hey, what can we do? But it's interesting to me. So the top 5 guys, of course, they're quarterbacks. They're always quarterbacks. What do you think? Is that the right way? Is it too much that we put so much on the quarterbacks, John?
No, it's not. But obviously, I'm going to dig a little deeper into that Cal quarterback, Pete, because he was all set to be going to Yale. So in other words, this kid's pretty damn smart. And Cal, of course, I'd say is easily on a par with that. But instead of going to Yale and playing against Ivy League competition, he decides to go to Cal. And he had a very good year. He threw for 3,000 yards, Pete.
Not bad.
As a redshirt sophomore now. That's pretty amazing. So the kid's 6'5". He's 225. He's got a slingshot for an arm. Mm-hmm. And now he transfers, like you said, he's transferred over to Indiana, Pete. Yeah. So that Indiana coach, I think, surprised a lot of people last year with how good Indiana got that quickly. And now you get this guy in there. So they had Penix and then they lost Penix, right? Mm-hmm. Well, now they got this guy, Fernando Mendoza. Remember that name, guys, because that kid is special.
He's going to be a good one. And last year they had a great quarterback as well, John. I mean, they just nabbed him up, and all of a sudden Indiana was a real football team. I mean, very competitive, not just a team out there. But all right, last thing I wanted to hit real quick with you, John, was the NBA. So we finally got to the conference finals. This is where it actually kind of matters, right? You've got OKC at Oklahoma City going up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think what's really interesting about this one, ESPN had a piece on this one. They were talking about, is Anthony Edwards, John, the face of the NBA? I'm going to say yes. And the reason I'm saying that is, should it be LeBron? Probably not. Should it even be Steph Curry, who's a great player? We all know that. He's been a great player forever. The guy can shoot the lights out anywhere. But, you combine the ages of those two guys, and I think the number is 79, something close to that. So these guys are the old hat. They've done it, but maybe they're done doing it. And I think Anthony Edwards, 23-year-old Anthony Edwards, is the guy that you'd want to have as your face of the next 10, 15 years for sure. So, and the other great thing about him, John, is I think when you look at Anthony Edwards and the fact that he doesn't allow any sort of load management, matter of fact, the guy begs to get back out on the floor and all the rest of that, I think that ingratiates himself. People in the fans here in Minnesota love him. And I think they love him for all the right reasons. He wants to win. He's also electric. He also distributes the ball around. And the other thing that really I found fascinating, John, and I'll ask you if you've ever seen anything like this before, but usually when somebody trades a player with another player, somebody wins, somebody loses, right? Well, Big Cat, Karl Anthony Towns, went to the New York Knicks, and he's had an unbelievable year, and it's been phenomenal. Well, we ended up getting, when I say we, Minnesota, Julius Randle, who's had a phenomenal year, but he's really had a phenomenal playoff run too, and this guy is absolutely on fire. That was basically the trade, and Cat wanted to get a lot more money, right? And we loved him here in Minnesota, but how do you pay him and the rest of the guys and all the rest of it? You just can't. So they let him go, and he went to the Knicks. Now they've got Julius Randle, and I'll tell you what, even though the odds are against the Timberwolves getting out of this one and into the finals, don't hold your breath, because I think that there's a shot that we have a shot to maybe take this thing and get to the finals, because that's how good, with Rudy Gobert and all the different players that are on there with the Timberwolves, with Anthony Edwards. I'll tell you what, John, it's turned into a real juggernaut, and almost everybody, Rudy's older, but almost everybody else, pretty damn young basketball team that could be great in the future.
Well, and Pete, like you said, Rudy Gobert, you were telling me about him long before anybody else was. Mm-hmm. And that kid is indeed one of those guys, a difference maker on a team.
Yep.
So, and Shaq just can't get enough, by the way, of your guy Ant. He just loves him. So that's the kind of players Jack was, and that's the kind of player he likes. A guy that doesn't come off the floor and just leaves it all out there. So I think that's a special player.
And it's unfair that we always, including myself, compare him to the greatest of all time, right? I mean, you know, but when you watch him play, Jon, if you get a chance to watch any of these NBA games and you watch Anthony play, the guy is absolutely amazing. And he does so many things like Jordan, where he's flying through the air, but it's almost like he's still held up in the air when he's up there, and he's moving the ball around in his arm and all that kind of stuff. Physically, he's a lot like him. He approaches the game very similarly. Obviously, it's a good person to try to emulate when you're going out on the floor. I think Michael Jordan would be a smart move. But he is a special player, and I've been watching him and had the luck to watch him for a lot of years. He's really impressive. He's been in the NBA now for a few years.
Well, we're getting off at West Palm Beach, Pete, so I got to say goodbye to everybody. All right, everybody. Guys, don't forget, go to invest.rad Intel. That's invest.radintel.ai. Make sure you check that out. And Pete and I will be back tomorrow at 1.